Welcome to Industry 4.0.
Hey guys, welcome to Industry 4.0. This is episode 23 of the podcast. And we have more of a normal pace show for you with a casual second half with not one focused topic. But last but not least, I am also joined by everybody except for the legendary Kyle Fisher. I'm joined by Ryan Thompson, Jeff Budzinski, and Ervin. How's everybody going for episode 23? How are we all doing? 23 weeks in.
Feeling good, man.
24 technically, but doing well.
20. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting we're zero indexed.
Gotta say, I'm liking these numbers we're putting up here.
Yeah, nice.
Feeling
Episode
good.
23.
Feeling good.
So, all right. So we have a couple of interesting topics to start off the show with. One of which is a product that several of us actually are going to be owners of in the near future. The Google Home Mini. There was an issue that came up earlier this week from Artem Rusakovsky. I may have butchered his name, from Android Police. He was one of the reporters who went to the Google event in the last couple of weeks. And it turns out if you went to the event, you were given a free Google Home Mini. And his unit, he found out very quickly, was spying on him. So he had this whole write-up where he was checking like the My Activity section and found out that it was basically recording everything he was doing from the time he plugged it in. Of course, that it was in his bathroom as well, right up until when he reported it to Google. Anybody want to kick off with this topic?
Yeah, so he put it up in his bathroom and noticed some weird activity that the lights were on initially. The lights were kept, which indicates that it was listening. And then for certain sounds that it heard throughout the house, it tried to respond to those requests or say that, hey, I can't do that at the moment, or I don't know what you mean, because it was picking up faint noises around the house. Since it was in the bathrooms, it's not something, not that someone is in there all day, so it was just picking up sounds all around the house. So he reported that to Google. Google,
They were actually really good about this.
yeah, they were really good because, well, Android Police is pretty huge. He's actually the founder of Android Police. So he must have good contacts at Google. Reached out to Google PR on a Friday night around like 4 or 5 p.m. And then 10 minutes later, he got an email back saying, we're going to look into this. And then about 40 minutes later, a Google employee was driving up to his house in Oakland to pick up the device to look at it physically and see what was going on.
That was one of the engineers too.
Yeah, engineers that worked on this Google Home Mini. So they looked into this, and it turns out that there's touch functionality on the top of the device where you can control. You can trigger it so it starts listening to you just by touching it, or you can turn up and down the volume. But it turns out there's a flaw in the hardware where it just registers phantom touches even without people touching it. And then that triggered the recording where it would just start listening at all times. So Google temporarily said that this only was affected by those original Google Home Minis that were given out at the event to the reviewers.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's a second update stating that they're gonna disable this touch functionality on all Google Home Minis that are shipping out to actual customers.
Man, what a PR nightmare for like a product like this.
Yep.
Like, it couldn't have happened to a better company than Google to get the problem resolved, and they handled it very well. But like, it's like it's a terrible start. Like, I have faith that they'll fix it, but like, man, that's not good.
Yeah.
So like, that's like the big thing that everybody's afraid of with these products is Like, is this thing always going to be recording everything that I say and everything that goes on in the room? And it's a good thing they let you listen to your recordings, otherwise people wouldn't have caught on to this.
Yeah.
It's definitely
Yeah, go ahead.
it's definitely not something that builds your confidence in these kind of devices when this kind of stuff happens. But good on Google for being quick, like you guys were talking about, sending an engineer out. I can only imagine what happened from there on Google's end, taking it back to the lab literally and working on the issue. It's a little.
They said that
go
they
ahead.
gave him 2 home minis in response as like a kind of like a compensation for his troubles.
Honestly, I think if this was another industry, probably would have got a lot more out of the situation. It's kind of not enough, in my opinion. If you invade someone's privacy, just be like, here, have another 2 of these things that did
Have
this.
2 more for 2 other rooms of the house for the same issue to go wrong.
Exactly.
All right. I kind of I feel like it's kind of implied when you buy one of these devices that it will be always listening to you because it literally is based on your commands and your vocal, commands.
Yeah.
I find it kind of funny that he had this placed in his bathroom of all places.
I know.
Like, what noises were coming out of that this thing was capturing?
Just picturing like Barry White being played exclusively on that device in his house during like baths.
Quite the history here.
Yeah. Oh man. It sounds a lot like Google, but no, it's I wonder if it was like, because he said it was, I think he mentioned that it started right away, like the second he plugged it in.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if maybe that could have been attributed to like the humidity in the bathroom with the fabric on top of the device or what. But like if it's starting right away, then it's clearly a hardware issue, and
Yes,
it's a good thing
exactly.
that they nerfed this feature on it.
That's
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, before you dive, I heard you going in the Amazon direction. I was gonna say the same kind of thing. It definitely seems to be a hardware issue. That's doesn't bode well for Google if you're disabling not a key feature necessarily, but something that you designed this thing to do, and it's based on a sensor that's malfunctioning. That
Can the Echo Dot do this? Can you touch it to trigger the voice?
It has physical buttons.
Okay, so this is basically the same functionality, but in like a touch feature.
Yeah, I would assume that they. I mean, I don't know. It's gesture based, so who knows if they have the same kind of thing like a hold and press. But that's the issue at hand here. So.
Yeah. Well, one can hope that maybe in a second run, or by the time the consumer product ships, the consumer model, that and the time that we get our hands on it, then they will resolve the problem. But
yeah,
it would definitely be something worth testing out because of this. That it's something that is already, like, even before people are it's being sold to the general public, there's already issues with it. So
I wonder if is there any update that you've heard about what stock? I mean, it's a firmware update this guy received, right? So I'm wondering what update, if they're sending out new minis with this updated firmware this quickly, or this is Tuesday, October 10th was the last day he takes notes here. I'm wondering if these new devices coming out, like the ones that like I'm gonna receive, and I think you, Matt, are gonna receive. Yeah. I'm curious whether or not it's gonna have the new firmware as when we get it, or if we're gonna have to update it as well.
If it does, the first time it boots up, it's gonna download the latest firmware. Without it even asking for, you can't even deny it. It's just gonna get the new firmware. So
I didn't know about the denying part. Yeah.
But I think
that's one of the nice things about those types of IoT devices, automatically downloading any of the latest updates.
It doesn't even ask you, do you want to install it? It just does it silently, which is kind of nice. You don't have to worry about it. It takes that. When most people is like, hey, I don't want to worry about that stuff. Just get me the latest version.
I think it would be good on Google's PR department if they actually put the version number of the firmware update out, so people have peace of mind.
Yeah, yeah, they published it.
100,122.
Yeah,
but it's quite a few versions.
Yes, obviously I don't think they did this in units of one, but
that could be an entirely different topic. Just talking about automatic rollout of updates that are like important like this, and whether updates should be opt out or opt in. and how it's different between companies like that.
Mm.
Because this is the same. This is also true for the Echo as well. All the updates are just automatically pushed to the device whether you want it or not, which is a good thing because it gets all the security updates right away. But this kind of moving on into the next topic, which does also relate to the Echoes, is the those devices now have a feature that Google was very quick to add to its list of features. You can now have personalized experiences with your Echo device. So it can now recognize different voices and deliver a personalized experience, like reading off calendars to various people and just kind of responding with the name of that account user. So it starts off just by you read it aloud 10 phrases, and then it uses that data to create a voice profile, similar to how Google will have you train it by saying the trigger phrase several times in order to pick up who is talking. So it's a nice feature, and it keeps people out of very private things. Like when we met up over the weekend, you tried to trigger my home, and it wouldn't allow you to do the trigger for finding the device because it didn't recognize your voice, Ervin.
Yeah,
that was a clever little trick that they added, and it's cool that that's the same thing for other ones. It'll only look for the verified, trained voices when trying to do personal tasks. But it looks like it's going to be in the Echo Dot, and the Echo Show. So not the Echo Look.
Right.
So it'll try to apply your favorite styles to your girlfriend as well, or to whoever's living in your apartment or house.
It's, see these companies like keeping up with each other, trying to one up or try to keep up with one another. So Google had this feature a while back, and now Amazon's catching up, and then Amazon's going to come up with something new, and then Google's going to have that feature. So they're keeping these things fairly on par with each other, trying to one up and see who's going to be on top. But I think overall, I think there's room for both of these, and because they offer certain things that the other one doesn't still.
Right. Well, you've got Google going after both Amazon and Apple with their latest product event. And then you have Amazon kind of off to the side throwing literally every possible combination of a speaker, camera, and like Internet of Things device at the wall to see what sticks. So it will be interesting to see like where these devices end up in the next 3 years.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of Amazon, this isn't in the show notes, but did you guys see the new Kindle that was released?
No.
They released a new waterproof Kindle, which just came out. So,
right, Kindle Oasis.
Yeah, the Oasis. Mm-hmm. The cool thing with that is apparently with like Audible, if you were to have it and if you had like the digital and the Audible version of it, it would show the pages as it's reading to you and highlight the words as it's going through the book, so you can like kind of keep up with the pages and like read, and it's useful. But I just thought since we're on Amazon, it'd be interesting to bring up this new Kindle.
Yeah,
it's like the first time I've ever had a waterproof Kindle.
I know Kyle was looking forward to a new Kindle. He said that in the earlier episode.
There you go.
Kyle.
Now you can safely take a bath and then read at the same time.
I was gonna say, just pop out your snorkel and get ready, bud.
You can read in your bathtub by the Kindle light.
Balance it on his beard.
Oh my gosh. Can you tell we miss you, Kyle?
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, it's definitely good to see Amazon, keeping up with competition. Very good for Amazon.
They're doing a good job at it too.
Yes, certainly.
I just wish the Echo didn't look like a Pringles can. That's all.
Yeah.
Hey, it's got
a little bit.
It has perforations.
Yeah. And then they released the second generation. And they released the second generation. They're like, but look, we have fabric now. We're just like Apple and Google.
Yeah, you can.
We're hip.
I'm so glad you just used hip, because I've been using that recently and getting made fun of.
This is the hippest podcast around, man.
Look how I'm dressed today. I look so hip. Just saying that negates
There's no hip problems in this podcast. We're a bunch of young guys.
Check us out. Industry 4.0.
But should we? I guess we should probably move on to the next topic.
It's time.
Yeah, there's some other stuff that came out. Someone's security.
Yeah. J-Buds, before you get your new phone, would you mind giving me your Apple ID password? Would that be okay? Can I ask you for that?
It depends.
Same
how you
goes to
present
Kyle
it.
if he ever switches.
If you can make it look like a legitimate one, then certainly.
Yeah, if I'll build
kidding.
you an app.
Just kidding. I'm gonna hit the home button.
I'll prompt you for it. Yeah, it's fine. So what we're talking about is that apparently it's extremely easy to set up a phishing scheme inside of an app on iOS. As it turns out, it's possible to create an iOS pop-up that pretty much is 100% identical to the official Apple sign-in to the iTunes store, but instead it's just whatever the developer decides they want to do with that password. And apparently there's several apps that were caught on the App Store that that are actually guilty of this. And there are ways to protect yourself from this, but it's shocking to see that this actually happened on the App Store. It's
so easy to create an exact pop-up to match what the official pop-up is. And the issue is, as most people are familiar with, and I'm sure Jeff can chime in, and I'm very used to this because I used older versions of iOS, and it would just randomly pop up with this: sign into your iCloud, sign into iTunes, put your password in, right? Just randomly for whatever reasons,
Yep.
Oh, okay, I'm just gonna put that in because you need it, or whatever you need to. You were buying an app or something like that. So people by now are used to these type of pop-ups just coming up whenever they open an app. Maybe they need to sign into like Game Center if they open a game, so that it syncs their progress with the game through Game Center. So people are so used to like this type of pop-up coming up if they've been using an iOS device for a while, and you can just create a phishing pop-up, and they're like, oh, okay, it's just asking for my password again, so I'm just going to quickly type it in. And now that person, whoever put that phishing pop-up in, now has your iTunes password.
Yeah,
people have been kind of trained to do so and just give out the credentials.
And this was to be something that would probably fool me too, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Because when I used iOS for a month, I can't remember how many times this pop-up happened where it was like, sign in, you need to sign in for this, you need to sign in for this, you need to sign in for this. And it's so easy to just get, like you were saying, get jaded to the process of just constantly entering your iTunes password.
Yeah.
And God.
I mean, same story as me. I've seen this a lot. I'm wondering where this goes in the future, guys, when it comes to biometric devices. As an iOS user, I was just using a couple of finance related apps earlier today, and a lot of them integrate your fingerprint with them, where it asks for access to your fingerprint and then you give it to it. And now when you log into the app, you just press down your thumb and you're in, instead of entering your password or what have you. So I'm wondering if that's going to become commonplace for apps. I know it is for purchases in general in the store, but for apps themselves, are people going to be enabling access to that and then doing something similar where it's as easy as holding the home button? Maybe you do it inadvertently. You don't have to type anything.
The article does go into a few ways to kind of protect yourself from this. So a couple of ways that you can protect yourself from this kind of a scheme is to try hitting the home button, like we mentioned, and see if the app itself quits.
Right.
And if it closes the app and with it the dialogue, then it was a phishing attack. But if it closes the app and it's still visible, and if the dialogue and the app are still visible, then it's a system dialogue. So if you hit the home button and the app doesn't close, then you need to enter your credentials and it's coming from the official Apple system instead of just that app's phishing scheme. But it's not just a matter of teaching people how to see if this is a phishing scheme or not. It's what Apple could do in general to prevent this from happening. And towards the bottom, they do propose a couple of these updates, and they propose a couple of solutions as well that could possibly solve this. And the one that I actually like the most, and this is something that Android does for more personal settings that you need to configure on your device, is they actually redirect you to the actual settings page on the system app. So it'll take you out of the app into the system settings for that app, where you have to explicitly grant it permission in those pages. And I actually like that idea. I think that's a much better solution. Sure, it takes you out of the app, but it guarantees that the fix is coming from the system settings.
It's not as convenient, but it's a heck of a lot safer.
Hey man, security itself isn't convenient.
Exactly.
If it's not convenient, it's safe. So
yep,
that's the world we live in now, especially with all these hacks that are going on, like Equifax, which is just this constant ongoing circle of fun. But
I don't know what kind of fun you've been having, but
not good. Okay, well, also another fix is just not prompting people for their credentials constantly as well. Because I honestly don't know why every single app would need your iTunes password over and over again. So that makes sense as well. But I mean, and this article will be in the show notes. So anybody who's interested in checking in on this and seeing how things like two-factor authentication play into it, and how this stuff would make it into the App Store happened. So
the researchers decided not to publish the code on how to do this. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Start developing these, but it's fairly easy. So if anybody has enough know-how with developing iPhone apps, I'm pretty sure they can cook up something themselves.
Yeah, and two-factor authentication, you can, just what I was saying earlier, you can it's good to have two-factor authentication, and it's a great check to have for any device, but it's not a perfect solution. It will make it harder for sure if you're a victim of this phishing scheme. So as a precaution, if you feel like, because like we were saying, it's so ingrained and such a robotic process, just set up two-factor authentication. That way, no matter what, you have an extra layer of security. May not be the most secure, but because then at that point they'll have your Apple ID, but at that being said, they will need your physical device to break the two-factor authentication. So
yes and no, Matt.
Yeah.
They could request it, and you could just type it in right after your password. But
yeah, well, it's not perfect, but it's
agreed.
Better than just accepting this without two-factor authentication.
Certainly true. Yes.
Yeah. But with that being said, we do have another bit of spying going on from a completely different company, and I think that now it is officially time to reset the days since OnePlus has had a company-wide issue with their device problem to zero again, because OnePlus, as it turns out, Oxygen OS is collecting a huge trove of sensitive details on anybody using their device, such as the phone number, the IMEI, their MAC addresses, the battery status when you've launched or closed an app, timestamps when you've locked or unlocked your phone, timestamps when the device screen went on or off, and that's just kind of scratching the surface of the stuff that they collect.
So just to say something before we get into it, that a lot of phone OS manufacturers collect a lot of data of how you use the phone. That's how they see, okay, how we're going to improve the next version. And that's fine. Just make it opt-in and make it anonymous. The mistake that OnePlus here is making that is you can't turn it off within the settings. So if you decide you don't want to share that type of statistics with OnePlus, you can't turn it off. And it also ties this data to your phone number as well as your serial number of the phone. So the data is not anonymized.
Yeah. Well, you can technically opt out of it if you root, but
who's
yeah,
people aren't gonna root.
Yes. Yeah. Just have to get all of your closest OnePlus friends into roaming, and then eventually they'll be able to opt out of this. So
yeah,
but
not that's the solution. A toggle is the solution.
Yeah, and I mean just so we're clear, and just so I'm clear, I'm not 100%. Just the physical act of rooting your device would opt you out of this because you're no longer running on Oxygen OS. Is that right? I would think so.
Yeah, you have to remove an app, a physical app from the phone.
Okay, and then rooting will let you do that. So so there is a step. But it's just So we have like the jelly scrolling. There's this long list of issues that OnePlus has had over the course of its entire history. But I just thought it was funny that they're having more problems with data collection. And of course, like this is just OnePlus getting caught, so this could be something happening in other devices. But I feel like with the prevalence of rooting and ROMing, this would be more visible in other devices. Somebody would have caught it by now in, say, like a Pixel or in like a Huawei device or something like that.
Yeah.
But
did you happen to mention the kind of workaround to rooting? I didn't think there's something. Yeah, there's something that actually praise to the homeland, a Polish developer came out with that you can work around without rooting the phone and messing with the operating system itself. You can enable USB debugging on the OnePlus in the settings section, and then when you tether it to a computer, you can use terminal commands to actually disable the tracking behavior, and that's done through what I see here is basically starting the server, opening a shell, and then uninstalling the net.oneplus.odm from the phone itself.
Yeah, so that's a tracking app behind the scenes. Yeah, so you can uninstall the app without actually rooting, but you have to know how to work ADB.
Yeah. And this is what I get for not reading the last several sentences of the article.
Yeah, about ADB, especially on Windows, is kind of for most people's.
Yeah, it's not for your everyday consumer, but
even for me sometimes to make ADB work properly on Windows.
Yeah, but let's face it. If you're gonna root a phone, you know how to use ADB probably.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and even like the instructions here aren't that difficult for anybody with even the slightest bit of technical know-how. If you don't know how to root, you probably have an idea of how to access your Android device from plugging it in.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not more than a few extra steps to get developer options on and turn on ADB.
Yeah, I'm sure there's tutorials out there for disabling this app, because I didn't know anything about ADB until I got my smartwatch and I wanted to upgrade it to the beta Android Wear 2.0. That's when I first had experience with that.
Yeah, me and Ervin.
I'm the rocket scientist.
Yeah, so me and Ervin were heavy into rooting, so we're intimately familiar with ROMing.
Yeah,
but I think that being said, like. It's one more thing, like I was saying, and we'll see if they officially address this and if they officially decide to actually put effort into anonymizing this information, and that would be the best fix going forward.
Yeah, anonymize it. Don't collect as much information. I don't want you to know what apps I'm opening, when I'm closing them, how long my screen's on and off. You don't need to know any of that.
Do they really need to know when my screen turned off? Like, I don't think it's that. Like, I really, that makes you wonder, like, where that data is going, like, what it's being used for.
Yeah.
There's a lot of extra stuff.
Yeah, I wonder what their intent was behind this, whether it's just laziness or bad programming, or if they had an actual desire to collect this data for some outside reason. And furthermore, this kind of ties back to the Google Home Mini conversation we were having earlier. Can't just give a guy 2 more of the Google Home Mini and expect it all to get, smoothed over. This is the age of information, and when people are having their information taken in various forms without their consent, that really rubs me the wrong way, and I don't like how this is being handled.
It's anti-consumer. Yeah. And data is more valuable than oil nowadays, basically. They should have their due diligence in line and taking care of customer data, the people who are paying them money to own their devices.
And if someone makes an argument that's in the terms of service, it's a well-known fact that nobody reads those things.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like,
think that it's. I think there may even be legal clauses where including things that are wildly outside the normal bounds of normal terms of service. If you throw that in there, then you can't expect to be bound by it. Like, if they put in a sentence like randomly and like the legalese terms that like thick in the terms of service, like, oh yeah, also we claim rights to own anything in the room this device is placed in. Like, they're not legally bound by that, even though you agreed to it. So
agreed. I know your point is valid and awesome, but there's also services out there, if I'm not mistaken, where they'll actually kind of translate the legal jargon into simple terms for consumers, which is cool.
Yeah, we actually we put I think we had one in one of our show notes a while back when we were talking about that.
That's right. Yeah.
It's I forget what it's called. It's a Chrome extension. It's like TOS something.
Yes. It's all coming back now. But
if I can find it again, I'll once again place it in the show notes. But that was not very long ago. So if anybody in the Twitch can find that episode, that would be good. But
agreed.
Yeah.
But
so
I think that's all we got for first half. Any closing comments? Anybody?
The counter is officially at 0 days for the days since OnePlus mistakes. So we'll be keeping track.
Well,
that's all I have to say.
That's all everyone's got to say. Thank you for tuning in to the first half of episode 23 of Industry 4.0. Catch us in the second half. We'll be here talking about some more cool topics. We're going to be talking about giant robots, the Oculus Go, AOL Instant Messenger, and Sony's Touch Projector. So stay tuned, and thanks for tuning in for the first half. Welcome back to the second half of episode 23 of Industry 4.0. I'm Jeff Budzinski. I'm joined here by Matt Slavin, Ryan Thompson, and Ervin Lukacs here. Unfortunately, we're still without Kyle Fisher for this episode, but we're ready to carry you through the second half. And we've got some interesting topics for you here, including, as previously mentioned, giant robots, the Oculus Go, AOL Instant Messenger shutting down, Sony's Touch Projector, and one that I left out that's a little bit of an Easter egg, Mark Zuckerberg's virtual tour through the Earth and space.
It wasn't awkward at all, we promise.
Not one bit. Speaking of awkward...
Oh, man. I'm excited about this first topic, though.
I was going to say, speaking of awkward, a little awkward transition here. There's going to be a giant robot duel that you can watch next Tuesday, October 17th, 2017 at 7 p.m. Pacific time, where the USA is taking on Japan.
It's a lot of sevens. I just realized that.
It's a lot of sevens. That's right. Hopefully some good luck there. But
yes.
Anyone wants to bring us in?
They announced this 2 years ago, back in July 2015. So it's been a while for a lot of people if they don't fully remember the whole background to this. So for a bit of background with what happened, there was a Japanese company, I think they're just like a metal company, calling out a US company that their robot was better, and and then the US, this is all from memory, I'm not looking at the article at this moment, but I think the US team challenged the Japanese team to a fight. So both of the teams have spent the last couple of years building their robots in order to meet up and fight each other. And it's cool because these robots kind of look like they're stylized to their specific culture's interpretation of giant mechs, and the US one kind of, I don't know if you guys ever played this game or not, but the US robots kind of resemble the ones from like Mech Assault and those old games for like the PlayStation and Xbox. The Japanese one almost vaguely resembles like a Gundam with like a little bit more smooth and little bit. I don't know. I'm excited. This is a giant robot fight, and we get to watch this. This is one of those moments where you're like, "This is the future."
Pretty awesome. I'm playing the video right now on the live stream on the video version that you guys will see on YouTube later, so you can check it out.
Yeah,
they're showing off the robots. Here it's pretty awesome.
From what the article is hinting at too, it's looking like it's not. And we were talking about this a little bit just before the show started. It's looking like it's not going to be truly a live fight, because as it would make complete sense, it does take a little bit of time to repair these robots after each round.
Right. So
they were shot over the span of several days, and it looks like they're going to be stringing it together in the Twitch stream. And the commentary. This is what I thought was interesting. Commentary is provided by Mike Goldberg of MMA and a robotics expert, Sarah Nadiri. It's interesting to see that. I can't wait to hear the MMA commentators take on two giant robots in a warehouse just coming at each other with 8-foot long chainsaws.
I was gonna say, I don't think did we specify size for our listeners and viewers? These are not. Yeah, these robots are 16 and 13 feet tall respectively, which is insane.
Man. This is the world's largest game of Rock'em Sock'em Robots ever fought. And the only difference is that Rock'em Sock'em Robots doesn't come with, and same thing with MMA, they don't come with 8-foot long chainsaws.
Did any of you ever, and to our viewers as well, if you want to type into Twitch chat, but did any of you watch BattleBots, the show? It was on a long time ago, and it came off the air, and then it came back on the air, and I was watching it, I think as recently as this summer, there was a new episode on. I used to love that show, and it wasn't that necessarily it was the best content, but it was just cool to see these people use remote controls to have these robots go at each other with these different strategies and see who comes out on top. When you have these giant robots that is like a country versus country battle, I think this is going to be awesome.
Yeah. Definitely reminds me of Mech Assault and the game Virtual On, if any of you guys ever played that game. What I'm interested to see is what the rules are, because they literally have human engineers as pilots in each of these. So, I mean, they have to limit the risk of injury to these guys, and they're still coming at each other in 12-ton robots with 8-foot long chainsaws. It should be interesting to see.
They do describe a little bit on what the conditions of the duel is. So, it says that over the email chain between the two contenders, the Megabots, I don't even know this was the thing, Megabots official person, I don't even know his name, Guy Cavalcanti, explained, he said that the duel was fought on a knockout system with no point scoring. So victory is attained by either knocking over or disabling your opponent with weight, power, size, and weapons of the bots left to each individual team. So they don't fully announce what each robot's going to come to the fight wielding, but the weapons that they did pick were chosen not to cut through metal, but just to damage it. So I'm assuming that the chainsaw is going to be a bit dulled, so that way it doesn't. I don't think you want anything getting into the cockpit during this fight.
Right. You know, that cab getting penetrated.
Yeah.
We're getting crushed.
Like in the second, if you look at if you're going through the slideshow in the notes, the US robot has like a red, white, and blue star-spangled chainsaw, and the Japanese robot has what looks like a power fist from Fallout, if you've ever seen that, where it's like a hydraulic fist. Yeah. And the robots look so. This is gonna be awesome. They look so cool. I know I'm gonna be watching this 100% live, and I set up they provide the Twitch link in the description of this or in the article, so
Yeah.
you can like subscribe to it and follow it for notifications. And that's like the first thing that I did when we talked about this initially.
I'm actually gonna
The
post this.
Japanese robot looks a little bit like the Geth from Mass Effect.
Kind of, actually. I was gonna say more like a kind of like a cross between something from like Pacific Rim and a Gundam.
Yeah,
But
it's badass.
I
yeah,
think this is gonna be
But
so
I'm-
cool. Even
I'm-
with dulled weapons, like a dulled chainsaw, it's still gonna have enough force to knock back. Or I don't know about these, 12-ton robots if it can knock it back, but it's gonna be doing some pushing for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The U.S. robot looks a little bit top heavy, but
Yeah.
it looks like it's going to be trying to fight a ranged battle from the way that it looks to be, unless it can punch you with the giant rifle that it has mounted on its right arm.
I can't quite see the feet of the Japanese robot either, but they don't look. It looks like the U.S. robot has like tank treads,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where the Japanese robot appears to be something like wheels. I think.
Yeah, it looks
It
like
looks-
it's got 3 legs. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
the, like,
Looks
wheel
Looks like the
beak.
wheels from a forklift.
Yeah.
It does, actually, yeah. That
That's-
could very well be what it is.
It absolutely could be, but it's going to be interesting to see how different aspects like that kind of pair up against each other. There's a lot of variables. I'm just curious to see how it goes, and I fingers crossed hope I can watch this live. If not, I'm definitely going to check it out after the fact.
And also, one thing before we move on to the next topic, I don't know if you guys are going through that 5-photo slideshow in the article, but the robot they show at the first slide photo is very different from the US robot that they show in pictures 3 and 4. Like, it looks to be this Optimus Prime looking chainsaw wielding 2-legged robot instead of something on like the treads. Like, it looks like it may even be a smaller set of treads.
Actually, a good point. Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it looks
Yeah.
different. I don't know. I think they're misleading us with that first image. Like, I think that was a prototype.
Definitely could be.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll have to wait till next Tuesday to find out.
Yeah.
To see. But this is the first time and hopefully not the last time that we discuss giant robots on Industry 4.0.
Yeah. So, another place where you could see some robot-on-robot violence might be in virtual reality. There's a new release from Oculus that's being introduced called the Oculus Go. Virtual reality wherever you want to take it. That's the catchphrase that's being advertised.
Hopefully not into traffic.
We can only hope that much, yeah. But this is very cool.
This is a good time to point out that VR is not the same as AR.
No, certainly not. Yes, this is all-encompassing sort of situation where you should probably be seated. If you're standing, you should definitely be in a comfortable environment where there's no risk of being harmed, no danger of that sort. This is a virtual reality headset where there's no PC or wires attached, which is, I'll repeat, no PC and no wires attached. That's a big deal. This is what I think I mentioned, maybe Matt, during our one-on-one episode, if not, certainly inside conversations. This is what I've been waiting for before I dive into the VR realm.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely exciting, and it's from what I'm seeing, it's not going to be as powerful as as a Oculus or any virtual reality headset that's hardwired into a desktop, for that matter. But it's nice to know that you can get a solid virtual reality experience without having to have a flagship expensive smartphone. So this kind of and coming in at only $200, this really opens up like higher end, or I guess you could say it's mid-range virtual reality.
Yeah.
To more people at a lower cost. And this is probably where Facebook really wanted to take this. They wanted to give it a device that doesn't require a massive overhead in order to purchase it. Because when the Oculus first came out, you needed an $1,800 desktop as well as a $600 virtual reality headset. So
yeah, it's
good that they're bringing this down to a usable price, and it's a little bit easier to use than a Google Cardboard, because the one thing that I liked about Google Cardboard was that I only needed this really cheap plastic headset, but the one thing I hated about it was that it destroyed the battery on my phone. And it's nice to be able to use my phone and like not have to worry about the battery dying while having a separated device for it. The fact that it's a standalone device makes it more appealing to me, I think.
Yeah, and that price is right. I think $200. It's not too expensive.
The price is right.
Insane. $200 is great.
Yeah. Also, fair warning to you guys: don't scroll through the website too quickly because I did, and now I'm dizzy. So
lots of thumbnails. Yeah.
See, I feel like the best place to use this would be like on an airplane or if you're traveling. Be a good
that would
place to
actually
watch
be
movies.
cool.
Yeah, have
awesome.
a nice experience that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's taken Facebook 4 years since their acquisition of Oculus to get this far.
Mm-hmm.
They bought Oculus back in 2014.
I'm excited for streaming with this. I know it's probably like the lamest thing to expect from it, but it's a personal portable VR headset. Like you mentioned, Matt, it's not going to be up to snuff with the one that you wire into your computer that can do a variety of things. But
like this one, Jeff?
What's that, Ervin?
This one?
Oh yeah, just like that one.
That one?
How do we look? Do we look great? Can we get iFurrow streaming in VR at some point? Anybody?
We have to get it. We can get a 360 camera.
Yeah.
I'll get right on that.
We'll get there.
Yes. Yeah.
But I can only imagine strapping, like putting this thing on my head, no wires attached, a VR headset that's hopefully comfortable from the way I've seen it described. It seems like it will be. And, you don't need a TV in your bedroom. You don't need to bring up your computer. If you're traveling, you're in a hotel room, you just put this thing on, you're in the Wi-Fi or whatever network you're connected to, and there you go. You can watch your show. I think that's going to be awesome.
I'm going to do the entire show, the rest of the show in VR. Is that all right, you guys?
That's fine with me, as long as you can still scroll the webpage and don't end up on a ridiculous.
I can't see a thing.
We shouldn't have trusted you with that responsibility right now, I guess. But
all right, guys, if we end up on some like random webpage, you know who to blame. Just the guy is sitting facing the opposite direction with his VR headset on. And I'm looking at the further down the page, Ervin, if you want to scroll us down that way. I'm looking at this one section where it shows like some of the different apps in like a little panel. I don't know what Facebook 360 is. I don't even know if I like Facebook in 2 dimensions. I don't know if I want it in 3 dimensions. So, like,
it might be the Facebook 360 videos that people have been posting.
Oh, I thought it was the whole Facebook experience in 3D, which was arguably way more terrifying than any horror VR experience. Yeah, I don't need to catch up with people who I haven't seen in 5 years in 360 degrees. It's a little too much immersion for me personally. But it is exciting though, the product overall.
And I'm interested
all jokes aside,
what this runs, because they didn't really talk about that. I didn't see anything being talked about, but it says on this website over 1,000 VR games available. So I'm curious of what operating system this is running, if they're going to bring over the existing library that they have for the full Oculus Rift, or if they're going to leverage what they're currently doing with the Gear VR, because the Gear VR runs the Oculus Home interface, so it might be just an Android-based system that's going to port over those games. I'm very curious of what type of experiences can they bring over, because on this page where they show all these apps, all of these are either already available on Gear VR, as well as the full Gear experience. And I'm also curious about the graphics quality, right? Because you need a fairly beefy system just to run the regular Gear system.
Yeah. I want to see the technical specs, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't really talk about any of that. But we'll find out some more information on this early next year when they're going to actually release this.
And the one thing that's exciting for me is that they say that it works with glasses too, which is nice for someone who does not wear contacts or has no interest in wearing them. So it's good to see that they're kind of trying to make this as accessible as possible to people with all different shapes and sizes. The real question is if it fits on my big head. That's the real question.
Fits on my all the regular Oculus fits on my head, and my head's pretty big. So
yeah, our heads are probably similar in dimensions. So
Another sort of related to this. So Oculus had their Connect conference, which all this news came out of. And then they've, additional to this news, they announced an update to their interface. I don't think I put this in the show notes, but they're going to update their entire UI for the original Oculus Rift, the one I was just wearing a couple minutes ago. And they're going to bring over a way to put your entire desktop inside of VR. So you can just pretty much do everything in virtual reality. Have your Chrome up, Chrome browser, any app that might not even be VR compatible, so you can just play games on the big screen if you want. So they're going to bring over that functionality. That's launching in beta in December. So I'm excited to check that out.
Can you resize the screens or add more?
I think so. Instead of like virtual desktops, unlimited amount of virtual desktops. You don't need additional monitors on your desk. That could be really cool for sure.
Oh yeah, that's killer.
Yeah.
That may actually be the thing that forces me to purchase a desktop virtual reality headset. I have the PSVR. Just need a reason to get the Oculus or the Vive, and that could do it.
I don't know if we talked about this during the summer, but Oculus launched a Oculus summer event or whatever they called it, where they discounted the entire Oculus package with the Oculus Touch controllers for $399. And now they officially announced that that's going to be the new permanent price. That's not going to be just a promotion.
Oh, nice.
So you want to get into the actual VR game, and you also already have a capable desktop computer that can run that meets the minimum specs. You can pick one up for $399 now.
That's not bad.
Fairly competitive price, and it's quite a bit cheaper than the HTC Vive that's currently on the market.
That's actually puts it right in the same price as the PlayStation VR,
which is pretty cool. Yeah.
So anybody who's got both, that's a compelling choice they want to make between PlayStation VR or the Oculus. So very nice. Should we go?
Yeah.
We're gonna get back to VR at the end of this show when we talk about Mark Zuckerberg and what he did in VR, but
not as serious of a tone though.
No, definitely not. But for something that probably appeals to most of our listeners out there, as I'm sure that most of you have heard via your social media platforms or word of mouth, AOL Instant Messenger is shutting down after 20 years of service.
No.
Yeah, back in the good old days in 1997, AOL Instant Messenger came into the world and changed the lives of so many. I know many of you remember hearing that dial-up tone, getting so excited to get online and start talking to your friends.
I probably got a few of those 1,000-hour CDs laying around if you guys want to take advantage of it before you can't.
You know, I remember going through the grocery store and seeing those things.
They handed them out.
You can't
get them
unsee that kind of memory.
You got them by like fistfuls in the mail. I had a couple of neighbors who would actually hang them from trees as like little decorations. You just see the AOL logo like spinning in the sunlight.
I have a confession to make. I never use AIM.
What?
Interesting.
I've never talked that loud on this podcast. What?
My God.
In a way, because it wasn't really a thing in Hungary when I grew up. So this is kind of like an American thing, America Online. It wasn't really something that we used over there. In 1997, I was still living there. So, and yeah, never really got into it.
You could argue that this was dead when texting came around, because that was basically what this was. It was a way to keep in touch with your friends over Instant Messenger. But I remember a late night messaging groups of friends, and then later at night a phone call would come in and it would cut the internet service to my house, and I'd be like, "No, get off the phone!" I'm talking.
I remember dialing up while my family was on the phone, and they would get absolutely livid with me because I would just ruin their phone call, and sometimes it was important. But I don't know. It's the same kind of thing as nowadays. Like, you'd much rather use, at least maybe not with smartphones as much, but I'd rather use a keyboard to get my message across. You can type so much faster, and it's typically a quicker connection too. Maybe, I don't know how those connection speeds rivaled back in that day, honestly, but it was just awesome. It was cool though. It wasn't just like about speed and transmission of information. It was like hanging out with your friends. That was like this right now, like seeing all of us together right now. That was how it was when you got on AIM.
That was
you come home from school. You can talk to your friends. You can talk to Smarter Child. You had your first text bots then.
Dude,
Smarter Child.
I was asking
awesome.
Smarter Child some like real esoteric questions.
What is
I
the
was
meaning
just, like
of life?
trying to like test the limits of like what it could tell me.
Imagine the amount of data that bot collected.
I know. Oh my
Seriously.
god. I wonder if it was even telling me the truth when I was like, "Where are you?" I was like, "Where are you located?"
On your screen, Matt.
Yes.
How do you know my name?
And then it was like, you guys, that reminded me of something that followed after that Cleverbot, and all the ridiculous like chats that people had with Cleverbot, stuff like that. Like, that was one of those like early days of like when the internet was still mostly magic to me, and it was like, it was like exciting, and like that was one of those moments where I was like, this is great. I can go to school and talk to my friends, and then I can go home and talk to them again, but but over the internet.
I think I think my first, like, I don't even want to call it this, but coding experience was on an AIM away message where you put like % time, and your away message just like, it's this time. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
That was like, weren't you able to put HTML in your chats as well, or was that MySpace that you could do that? I think you could put HTML and stuff in your MySpace account.
I'm pretty sure it was MySpace. I remember for sure on MySpace, like editing the HTML of my page to put like a background in it and like change the autoplay songs playlist and stuff like that. On AIM, I remember mostly doing things like color changes. And I remember updating the profile. You'd always have your profile updated with your favorite lyrics at the time, that kind of thing. It was cool. It was pretty cool. Yeah, I used to get mocked and appreciated for it at the same time. So nice, embarrassing teenage moments and memories being shared here.
That's how I found out about Good Charlotte, through an AIM status.
Oh man! And you called yourself hip earlier in the episode.
Yeah, I did. Ervin's over there in not America at that time.
Yeah,
you talking on not AIM.
Doesn't even know a word of English yet.
Not able to contribute to this conversation. We're shunning you right now.
Actually,
this is a shame moment.
I wish I remembered the name. I would totally shout it out right now. I don't think you used it, Ervin. Probably not. But when I was learning Polish towards the end of high school, I remember that we used a different instant messenger service to talk in Polish. And it was, I wonder if they had anything like that in Hungary, or if you just didn't use any at all.
I don't know.
I didn't use any at the time.
Too real.
I remember meeting up with people on RuneScape.
I had family who lived in Canada, and American Online, AIM, AOL wasn't a thing there as well. So what they used there was MSN Messenger.
Oh, yeah.
MSN Messenger was huge in Canada. That's what everyone used. When that was a thing, when MSN was a thing. So that's kind of weird that even in Canada, which isn't that far from the US, even didn't use AIM to communicate.
It was called America Online.
Yeah, that's true.
Not North America Online.
Yeah, exactly.
But I remember GChat also was another chat client that I had loved back when it first came out, when they rolled out shortly after Gmail. That was nice.
Yeah, that was definitely later on, but yeah, absolutely, that was a game changer too for me.
Yeah. But well before that, meeting up with my buddies on RuneScape, talking over AIM. Yeah. Afterwards.
RuneScape. Ooh.
Good times.
But kind of touching more on AIM, unless anyone has something on topic to say.
Nope.
I still have my screen name that I made originally for AIM The time I was 12. It carries over through the years.
I'm glad you didn't say it, because that's my next announcement, is not to announce your old AIM screen name. For all you listeners and viewers out there, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it. Listen, everyone had their name, right? I almost dropped mine. It's not a good idea, because even though you think that this is something that's completely covered with dust and no one's ever going to access again, AIM's going away, who cares, right? Nope. There's risk involved, because you have things like pet names, maybe dates that are important to you. And I'm citing a TechCrunch article here that I actually read personally earlier in the week and put in our show notes for this week. Things like hobbies, any personally identifying information, or PII, that potential hackers may otherwise not have access to, could be found through your screen name. Or for that matter, if you haven't used your screen name in a long time and you have a stupid easy password to get into it, maybe there's information tied to your account that they can still get access to. Not a good idea to share it. There's a lot of campaigns on Twitter and things of that nature where they say share your screen name in memory of AIM, or everyone's posted on Facebook. Not a good
I don't
idea.
think I even remember my AIM username. Like, I don't think I could hack into my own account.
I wish I could say my own account right now, because it's so ridiculous, but I just read the announcement. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, we can have a big poll on, have everybody listing their favorite usernames, and we'll use it for analytics, and we'll send it all to OnePlus so they can compile. But yeah, I think both the email address and the username associated with my AIM account are dead, because I don't remember them at all. It may even be my old AOL email that I have no idea what it is. So haven't touched it since like the 2000s, like early 2000s, or maybe even the late 90s. I don't know.
I logged into mine as recently as this past summer.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's a friend from high school that was, for some reason, the only way we kept in touch. So I logged in there and used to be like, "What's up? We're on AIM."
Are the sound effects still the same?
They can be, but mine weren't on.
Okay.
It was actually cool. Their interface is much improved. I actually have an acquaintance, I guess I would call him, who works for AOL up in NYC, and I think I was talking to him at one of my cousin's parties or something, and he mentioned, I was like, I'm gonna check out AIM again, and I logged in, and they had like you can tie your Google account to it, so you can use that GChat that you were talking about, Matt. In AIM, you can use your AOL account, and unfortunately it's all going away soon. They made so many great strides, but it was too late.
Can we get a little bit of like Celine Dion or Sarah McLachlan going, just in honor of this sad moment in history?
We could, but when we catch our big break, we might get sued. So
yeah, well, if we play it for under 30 seconds, I think we're fine. But
fair use.
Yeah, fair. But I don't know if anybody has any closing topics on it before the server shut down.
RIP. Never knew you.
Yeah, hardly.
blows my
Ruthless,
mind.
Ervin.
I'm gonna bring this up again too, whether it be on air or not. But
Ervin's that guy who like shows up to the funeral because he knows a guy who...
Oh my god!
I heard there was food.
I'm here for the reception.
Too soon. Yeah, so just another topic this week, everybody, and all you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a projector being put out by Sony that turns whatever surface you're using that it's mounted on into a touchscreen. This was something that was talked about quite some number of years ago. And I remember thinking, oh, sweet, no more keyboards. We're going to have projection, and it's going to, tell where your fingers are when you're typing just on your tabletop, and that's all you got. So you can take your device around with you. You can use whatever surface you're on, and there you go. You got a desktop kind of setup going on. This is an Ars Technica article I'm reading that was released today, believe it or not. It's called the Xperia Touch. And It's valued. Its market price is coming out at $1,699.99.
My God.
That is a pretty penny.
Yeah.
It's a device that runs Android
Yes,
that projects the
yes.
screen up to 23 inches.
Hmm.
So it's pretty much an Android tablet that you can project anywhere on a flat surface, and you can touch.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Read your next sentence there.
What?
Read your next sentence there.
What, the resolution?
Yeah.
1366 by 768?
Yeah.
For $1,700?
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
Yeah.
You could buy.
I'm pretty sure you can go on Amazon and get one of those projector keyboards for like way less than $1,600.
Yeah,
But that's not an Android device. That's not a full computer.
that's
Yeah,
the
but,
thing.
like-
It's very different than just a keyboard. I might have been misleading in my intro, but
Yeah. They're calling it the Xperia Touch. That's the name of it. Oh, man. It's like they're naming it off their phone line. Like they just took an Xperia phone and just shoved it into a box.
You can turn it into a keyboard, a piano keyboard.
Yeah.
I'm showing a screen right now on the slideshow. They have it up.
Yeah.
You can have a piano keys up on it, and you can start playing.
see,
It's kind of cool.
that is really cool to me. I think that this has a lot of potential as of a different form of technology. The other picture that you may be showing right now, Ervin, of it's image 6 showing them playing a game together on a table. I think that's really cool too. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of uses to this. $1,700, not so much, but if you get some serious resolution on this bad boy, maybe 2 different angles of projection, so you can kind of get rid of obstructions in the image, and maybe ramp up some of its capabilities in terms of the hardware it has inside of it. I think this could be something that makes a big footprint in the tech industry.
Yeah. The couple of photos after the game, it's like of the Android interface itself in the slideshow. It looks like a traditional Android screen. Like when I was looking at that picture, the one immediately to the right of the one that you're displaying now, it was showing like you can see the Android home and back button, and you can see the app drawer and the Google search bar, and it's cool that you do have the full Android experience in that. And I could actually, now that I'm trying to think of why somebody would want this for their home, I could see this as being a nice dedicated IoT device.
Yeah.
I think that could be like a almost, you install the Amazon app on there, you install the Google Home app, and you sign into your accounts, and then you have a dedicated, almost like a touch terminal that you can use to control your devices. And that's a cool use case.
I like how bright it is too. It looks like there's a lot of light in that room that they're using it, and you can still see the app icons pretty clearly.
Yeah, that's another thing too that I thought was nice. That
Already sold out on Amazon though. Too bad.
Well,
no,
I'm not
darn.
surprised, but I mean,
I'm excited to see one of these devices actually coming into fruition. That's what excites me. I think augmented reality is going to surpass this by leaps and bounds when that finally comes to fruition. Like you see the Microsoft HoloLens and other augmented reality goggles like that could easily do all the features this has if they build into it. So I haven't seen that on the market yet, but they show all the prototypes and it's exciting.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think for $1,600,
yeah.
then he's definitely going to lose that bet.
And also, like, how good of a quality can this truly be at 80 inches?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how well that 1300 by what is it, 768 resolution is going to hold up.
This makes me think a lot about, do you guys remember the kind of, I don't know if it was like not a craze necessarily, but it kind of became popular, the smart glass advertisements you used to see about the future of like your home, where you'd have mirrors made of this and countertops made of this, and your car would have this on the windshield. And they had, you know, capacitive touch activated, and also just like display sources where glass basically became a screen, with various levels of transparency. And it basically brought technology to these new surfaces that it wasn't there before. And this reminds me a lot of that kind of technology where you have a surface where you can interact with it, and it makes me wonder which one is A, more cost effective, and B, more practical. I would think that if you had smart glass where it had some sort of built-in display system, that would be a little more practical because you don't have this box sitting on every surface you want to use. And it also involves bringing like a chip or your smartphone or something like that around where you placed it, and use something along the lines of NFC, like near field communication technology, to bring your device to that custom interface and then display what you wanted to at that station. I don't think this kind of technology is going to get there unless there's some way they can make it smaller or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyone have thoughts on something like that?
Yeah. Size makes a difference, and I think wearables also would make a difference versus stationary.
Yeah. I was just reading, and not to detract from it, but I'm just confused as to why this has a camera also. Like, I don't understand why it needs that, but I do think the size of this thing is a little awkward, though. I don't know if I agree with the build and the approach, but
I don't know much about the engineering on it, but how else do your fingers interact with what it's projecting without a camera? Is it using sonar?
That's what my thoughts were, Ryan.
Infrared. Yeah, it says it's got multi-touch, but why does it need a camera? I don't know if I'm stuck on this.
What if you want to have a Skype chat with a family member? You can project it on the wall and just
But if you wanted to take like a photo with it or something, that was what I was thinking. Like, I'm just trying to picture somebody like setting a photo and like running over to the box and like hitting the button on, like slapping the wall and then running back to like his friends to like take a photo.
No, but do you think that it's like? Do you think it's an adjustable camera? Is it like I don't see anything in here about it, but could it be something along the lines of what Ryan's getting at? Like maybe, I don't know, for bigger projections or something like that.
It could. It's got a 13 megapixel camera, so it's of comparable lens. It's of comparable size to a normal smartphone camera. So I'd imagine it does pick up pretty good detail. What
if you were to record some kind of, gesture movement or something like that? Would it have to be like, I don't know what other example to use, but if you were to send like a message where you get to record what you write on the screen or something like that, would infrared be able to pick up that up accurately?
And I'm not sure. I'd imagine it would be pretty good because the cheaper technologies have gotten this down pretty well with infrared, and infrared is fairly powerful and at its output. So I don't think that multi-touch would be an issue so much as maybe just standard problems with. I think the biggest issue will be the resolution, personally.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were saying that on this, according to the article, saying that they had some hands-on time with the device, and they were saying you can project it on the wall and table, and I'd also imagine that it has autofocus, auto rotation, and auto keystoning, which is basically you can orient it however you want, and it will try to configure itself to whichever surface, and you never really have to manually do it yourself.
Yeah,
but they were saying that the touch controls work really well, saying like aiming a painting app at a wall or table, and they said drawing with your fingers feel really nice. So I'm assuming it's a pretty solid experience. They got it pretty fleshed out.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I just want to say resolution seems like it's one of its major setback right now. Let's say if they pushed it to 8K or 16K down the road, that would be like a crazy TV to put against the wall.
Yeah.
A little box like that.
It's definitely
would be what they're aiming for.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I don't see that many other practical uses for it, honestly.
They're a long way from 8K.
Augmented reality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's true, though.
According to this, they were saying the plan is for the touch to work at a distance also. So touching a faraway projection and thereby blocking it doesn't make a lot of sense. So for this, they were saying now this makes a little bit more sense. They have the front-mounted 60 FPS camera and plan to implement gesture controls. So that actually sounds like that answered my question. I know why the camera's there. It's all coming to me now. It makes sense. But, I mean, it's a cool device, but it's not $1,600 cool.
No. Mm-mm.
Like, this would have been awesome if it had half the price. $800 is very reasonable for this. I don't know what they're stuffing in there, unless that's gold, that color, that like pure gold. I don't know what. I don't know why it's coming in at such a high price.
You don't know what that circuitry is made of.
I don't. You're right. You got to take it apart. There may be diamonds in there.
You never know.
So,
yeah. You never know.
Yeah.
So let's go to our last topic here, our Easter egg, so to speak. How do I start this up? What tone do I take bringing in this article?
Let me just preface this by saying that I don't know how he manages to do it, but literally everything Mark Zuckerberg does is the most forced and awkward like things that I ever have to watch. Like his house tour, like where he had Morgan Freeman configured as his home AI. Like this video is another one. And then even going all the way back to when he first was CEO, like when he first became like officially like CEO and started doing like talks in front of large groups of people. Where he had like, I think there was one where he had Jesse Eisenberg after he did that social media movie come out on stage and he was like, just kidding guys, I'm actually Mark Zuckerberg. And we're just like, okay.
Yeah, it's really, really awkward. It's because he has to get out of his bath made of, old Roman coins and put on his robe made of dinosaur skin and then address the world.
And finish walling off his island in Hawaii.
Exactly. That's a more casual way of saying he's a rich guy. He doesn't know how to interact with society anymore. But anyway, I want to hear your thoughts on this, Thompson. What do you think about? Yeah, what do you think about Zuckerberg choosing Puerto Rico, nearly very recently hit by a hurricane, as one of his spots to go?
Well, first word that comes to mind would be tasteless.
Out of touch.
Yeah, out of touch. You use a natural disaster as a form of, hey, let's promote our VR.
Right. It like almost takes away from the disaster that's happening over there, where he's like, look at us, cute little animations standing in the waist deep water near houses.
Right.
Like
Rachel, the water's 3 feet taller or 3 feet high over there. Can you give me a high five?
In virtual reality, it's
what?
That high five was, just standing in the street that's covered in water, knee-deep water, or even higher, waist-deep water, and they're like, let's high-five each other in VR. It's so fun. Look at how cool we are. Like, oh my god. You guys.
Ervin, you texted me about this when this was happening, or shortly after it happened.
Yeah.
Why don't you, kind of reflect a little bit more on what's so bad about this?
It just seems like they're completely, like Thompson said, out of touch. Just doesn't. I don't know.
We're all just speechless. And I personally like I said, they are donating to Puerto Rico, and this is something that we could actively provide donation links to in our show notes and to various services that are helping out the disaster in Puerto Rico. That goes without saying, but like I urge everybody to watch this video at least one time.
Please do.
And experience this firsthand, because this is incredible. Like, put us on mute and go open another tab and just enjoy that experience for a little bit, because it's something to cherish.
I'll share that to the Twitchers.
And very, very, very confusing experience, all in the same thing. But then later they went to the moon.
Yeah, they did.
They got on the moon.
Let's go to the moon.
We're done here. Let's go to space. Thanks for the crisp high five. Let's go upwards to the moon.
That's just the most ridiculous transition to go from like disaster-stricken Puerto Rico and just be like, well, we get to go to the moon now.
Yeah, and then they go back and hang out with Mark Zuckerberg's dog for a little bit, and And I think they have come out with official statements like saying that they didn't think it would go over as poorly as it did, and they're sorry, and they wanted to reiterate that they were donating to Puerto Rico, and they didn't mean for it to detract from the problems that were happening over there. And it's just funny.
Yeah,
that
it's just funny.
Even that thumbnail right there that you have in the show notes a little bit ago with Mark and Rachel on the video, like even just the video thumbnail, just it captures it.
Well, like the way they respond to it too bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's like, you know, it wasn't clear that it offended people because like the problem was that there was a virtual character on a 2D screen, and like that's something we need to work on, is that the characters look too happy. But really, you're like, no, you picked the wrong location. That's the problem, really. Like you went to a place that just got decimated, and you're like, check us out, we know how to do this. Like, here's our plug that we're doing something good for the world. And
it's like, it's like he did a Google search for like news in the last week and then picked the first country the first place that showed up.
Yeah, but
Puerto Rico's not a country, it's part of the US.
But like it's weird too, because I mean, it's not like they're advertising people like, you probably haven't heard of us, we're Facebook, you should probably check us out, now we got this thing called VR. It's like, no, we're Facebook, you guys know who we are, we're in VR, and here we are in Puerto Rico. That's just, Ervin, I think that's what pretty much you were trying to say to me earlier in the week, is it's just tasteless. He knew what he was doing. It's just plugging your own company to try and make you seem like the good guy when really you're just this insensitive human being using a catastrophe and exploiting it to make your company seem like the good guy.
Yeah.
And at the same time saying, hey, check our VR out.
Yeah. It's like a product advertisement placed over a disaster.
That's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. So that's your Easter egg, listeners. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you have some sort of opinion on this matter.
Just in case you thought Zuckerberg was in touch with humanity. Think again.
I hear a lot from our listeners and our viewers. They get in touch with me and they say, I don't understand what you guys are talking about. I feel like this is a topic, if you stuck around, if you heard, the last topic on the episode, this is something that most people can relate to. Most people, almost all people that would be listening to this know what Facebook is, have seen Facebook, know who Mark Zuckerberg is.
This whole second half was we talked about AIM, we talked about giant robots, we talked about Mark Zuckerberg being awkward yet again.
Yeah, this is stuff that even if you didn't know what it was about, you can imagine what it's about pretty easily, in my opinion. I hope that you have some sort of opinion on this matter. But I'm gonna give one more carrot before we head out, just to give a shout out. One of our dedicated listeners, Tyler, a good friend of many of ours, sent a link to a Kickstarter campaign for I believe it's pronounced Pimax. Anybody?
I think so.
World's first 8K VR headset. They set a donation goal of $200,000 US, and they've had over $1.5 million donated, with just about 2,500 backers. So they have these various goals. If the donators pledge more, over just about $500, they're supposed to get one of these 8K headsets. And
it looks like it makes you look like a Decepticon when you wear it.
I know, it looks pretty insane.
It does.
It's for someone, if anyone can't see, it's this wide headset. Looks to be about maybe a foot in width, by about 4 inches in height, and it has this V, kind of like Cyclops from the X-Men. And allegedly, the goal / what it's boasting is that it does VR in 8K, which
would be nice.
Pretty ridiculous.
That's 4K in each eye.
It is 4K for each eye. I like that.
I am ashamed to admit this as a member of this podcast, but I don't know that I've ever seen 4K video in person.
Come to my place. I'll show you some 4K.
Maybe Thompson.
same.
Maybe
Yeah,
Thompson.
come to Ervin's place.
My place. Let's check out 4K and the Oculus at the same time.
Yeah.
You're right.
We'll have to arrange something.
Yeah.
AKA Ervin's playground.
Yeah. Me and Ervin will have to see who can wave more tech in front of you to see if we can lure you over.
He was already at your place last week, so
He was.
my turn. You got to share, Jeff.
Custody now. Come on.
Your Plex accounts are being taken into consideration.
Yeah.
As far as
Also, for just to kind of go back onto what we were talking about during the second half, on Tuesday, on our Facebook page, I'll be sharing the Twitch link to the robot fight for anybody who is interested in watching it. I'll be setting a reminder on my calendar to do that for you guys, so we can all watch it together. And if like we were discussing, if anybody has been listening since the beginning of the first half, or since the beginning of the second half, we were discussing possibly doing like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 style stream of that. So having like our own commentary over the robot fight, on top of the commentary of the two people who are already doing it.
That would be perfect.
Yeah, I would love that. Matt, it would also be really cool if you or pretty much any of us did some live tweeting during that too.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd be down for that.
so we'll
Provide like
yeah,
see if I can get that arranged.
a little play-by-play or something like that.
Yeah,
But
I'm down for that.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to break out the pajamas and get comfortable and do some live tweeting. We should set it up in a way so that way we're like kind of, it's like over our shoulders, like we're silhouettes in the bottom corner watching the stream.
Yeah, that can be set up.
Yeah. But at that point, I think that's all we got. So I think that's the end of. I think that brings us to the end of the show.
yeah. Anyone? Any last comments from any of our I4O guys? Besides the fact that we all miss Kyle.
Yeah,
Miss you, Kyle.
that's a given.
3 times in one episode is not enough. But
Yeah. I guess we can go into if anybody's got anything they're working on. If anybody wants to plug anything.
yeah. Let's start out with our Industry 4.0 mediums. You can find us on Podbean at industry FOUROH.podbean.com. You can find us on Google Play at Industry 4.0. iTunes, same thing, Industry 4.0. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Industry40, all spelled out, and twitter.com, Industry40, all spelled out.
Yep. As you guys saw it earlier, I Snapchatted that you can say to, if you have a Google Home device, you can just say, play the latest episode of Industry 4.0, and she will do that.
That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, honestly.
Hey, or he. You can change the voice now.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
or
right.
he,
That's right.
yes.
Yes.
But all you have to say is say the hey, you know who, and play the latest episode of Industry 4.0, and there you have it.
I
It's
wish
2017, Ervin. Come on.
I wish so badly that you were on some sort of speaker device so that I could shout it out right now and have both activate. But you know what? Another time, next time that I'm trolling you guys, we can work on that.
Yes.
So for our listeners out there, our viewers out there, you may already know, but all episode music was produced by yours truly, Jeff Budzinski. You can find me on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/thejbones. That is a new URL. So make sure you update your bookmarks. I know you set one. While we don't have him as well, I'm going to plug our buddy Kyle, who couldn't make it tonight. He's the one with the glorious beard, and he's got a wrestling podcast that's called On Air with Keenan and Kyle. You can find that on airwithkeenan.podomatic.com. Ryan, take it away.
Yeah, I'm still doing photography on the side. You can find me at WayneRyan21 on Instagram. It's basically the portfolio of most of my work up to this point. Ervin, you want to go?
No, let me mute. If you guys want to see what I've been working on in terms of the Instagram, you can check me out, Instagram.com/Ervin.Lucas. Look at my latest work there.
Lukacs to spell Lucas. I gotta shout you out, Ryan. Flickr.com/photos/Wayne R. Thompson. That's where I get all of my photos from Ryan. It's the best.
It's an amazing source of backgrounds for
high quality images. Those are 4K images, right, Ryan?
Yeah, yes, sir.
They're insane. If you, I'm telling you, listeners, if you got one thing out of this podcast, check out Wayne's stuff. Come on. All right. So with that, guys, this has been a good episode. I really liked what we talked about here. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. A lot of different topics covered, a lot of consumer-based stuff. I know that we're going to have some more exciting topics next week for episode 24. For all of us here at Industry 4.0, Ryan, Matt, Ervin, and myself, Jeff, and Kyle, who's not here for this episode, thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.